Welcome to today's live streaming. Today we are going to talk about JavaScript, JavaScript events. We are going to talk about event handling. We are going to talk about DOM, virtual DOM, and quite a number of stuff. Today I want to start by explaining JavaScript. If you check JavaScript, we have, you can check what JavaScript is basically. Mostly it's used for front end, but nowadays we have JavaScript for back end. You can use Node and Express for backend, but mostly it's used for what we call client side. That is, it's interpreted by the browser. We have been looking at Vue in the past. We have looked at Vue.js, and we have also looked at React.js, and there are quite a number of other JavaScript frameworks that are there. We have Angular. We have Angular.js. All these are front-end frameworks. For backend, we have you use Node with Express. This is a backend framework, just like Spring or Laravel or other backend frameworks we have looked at. So today we are going to do a bit of events. Events in JavaScript are anything that happens on JavaScript. If I was to click this, that's on a click event. So we are going to look at events. If I'm going to use an application here, I have created this is a simple application which has an authentication. You authenticate, then it takes you to a page. Let me log in. That I think that's the password. No. No, it's not. Let me remember the password, then I'll maybe let me check. I have my user interface here for the authentication. Admin. So I'll log in and check the users that I have. I have quite a number of users for this front-end application. So today we're going to look at, let me see, view all. I have all these. The user I want to, let me use this one. It's a dummy user. So I'll use, right, then, yeah, there it is. Now we are logged in this application as Bob. If you check, I think profile, it will tell you the name is Bob and the email is that, and this is our identity from our this authentication server. So we are going to do what we are going to do today. I'm going to explain what events are. Events is JavaScript. Anything that does, when I clicked this login, it created it was an event. So for an event to happen, you need what you call event listeners, and we'll be looking at them. When I click this, there is an event listener that says I'm already, then gives me I'm already logged in. So let's go to here. In JavaScript, we can look at events. Let's see, JavaScript events. There are quite a number. You can check them. There's a huge list. We have like here. Let's try this. We have an on-click event. This is when we click this. It gives us the date and the time. The 6th of January 2020. This is the time, East Africa time. So we have a button which is inside the HTML page, and we have this on click. We have on click document.get element by ID demo.inner HTML. Then you give it a date. Then this document.get element by ID is this ID. This is a paragraph with an ID of the demo, and this the demo. So let's run it again. And when we do it, when we click, that's an event. When we click, something listens to what when we click. So it creates that's called an event listener. So we have an on-click event. When we click, it to tell us the time. This is the time. The time is just here. So let's do events in JavaScript are quite. We can have DOM events. These are like on click. We can have on mouse over, on mouse leave. There are quite a number. So let me go to code, and we see from our application. We had our application running. Where is it? Yeah, here it is. When I click home here, these are a click event. So when I click profile, there's a listener that listens to that event and takes me to the profile page, and the same as all these. For example, let me go back here. If I was to add something here, and then click that, there's what we call on change event. On change is a, let me show you. On change. On change, it listens to any changes in our input. We have our input here. Here we have our input where we input our data. So every time we change, we can make it. I think I had logged it to the console. Let's see the console. Let me see. No, it's not logged in. It's not logged. So let me look at component profile, and then no, it's nothing there. So what we're going to do right now, we are going to go to the code and look at how the events are in all JavaScript. All JavaScript libraries. Actually, not just JavaScript. For example, today I was writing an application. I think I called it Switch Swing. It's in Java, and it had an event which was a click event. Then let's wait for it to load as we look at this. This application, this React application. React is a JavaScript framework that deals with rendering UI. UI in React is divided into components. The components can be in form of JSX, or it can be just JavaScript. There's not much difference when you write what's inside this file. So here we have a home. This is our home. which is JSX. This is an extension for React. We have a custom navbar. This is the custom navbar I'm talking about. This the navbar with all these links to my pages. React is a single page application. If you check quite well, this doesn't change to slash something. So it's just that. Oh, okay, it changes because I'm using React router. Let me show you. There's React router in my application. Yes, I'm using browser router. Then I'm saying if you go to slash that, it will take to component welcome. If you go to that, it will take to user info. And these are my components here. For welcome, I think we have welcome.js here. For profile, we have user info. Okay, I think I named it wrongly. We have news here for news, and we have, let me go there. We have a logout, and we have a chat. This React router is just a way to route your application to different pages. We have this. When I'm clicking these links, it takes me to the other pages. I'm actually using React router, and yeah. So today we are going to talk about events. Events are anything that happens to a web page. When we click, that's an event. When we change, for example, when we change here, that's an event. When we sometimes we bring a mouse over like this, that's an event. We can listen to that event as it happens. Anything that happens on JavaScript is an event. So let's go to also the same thing can be done with Vue, can be done with Angular or any other JavaScript framework. So today I'm going to take you through. We have this application. Let me go to the components. And this is my component. It has this head component. It has a navigation bar with a brand that's written open nothing, and then everything inside the navigation items. These navigation items, they are on the right, and that's why I said pull right. And yeah, there they are. There's no any event here, so let me look for the one that has some events. I don't think it's chat. Where is chat? Yes, we have this. Okay, no, that's not. Let me check this one. We have an example of this. That this is going to set a username. This on which join the chat. Join the chat is one of the pages here. Probably this page is called join the chat. When you want to join the chat, you have to input your name. When you say my name is Dan, then you click. That event is handled by this set name. So set name updates what we call state. This is a state. It starts with a set username being null, and then updates it to username, the username we have entered. Then if there is a username, it goes to the next page, which is a message panel. The message panel is here. Let's see, let me go back and let's say that this is a join page, and then I will click here. Then it gives me the message panel. So I will come here and type my message, and then send it to the backend server. For now, we look at I said also we do conditionals that like we have here, that if this state, this state, state is data that is going to change over the time in the course of the lifetime of this application. If the state has username, we are going to render this. Else, we are going to display message. If it doesn't have, this is what we are going to display. If it has, we go to the next step. If, for example, this can be done like this, let's come here to our application. If I say join and I didn't give it a name, so it would go to the next step. So here it is. If I don't give it a username, it just is to the same page, which is login. This uh, login component. If it has a username, it goes to the message panel, which is this, and that message panel is right here. Let's say. So this is a message panel. That's a condition. If a condition is fulfilled, it goes to the next, it does something. For conditionals in JavaScript, we have if, we have switch event, switch statement, and we have quite a number of them. But for now, these are simple version of if. Where is it? If you don't have a username, we stay in the same page. Like this I say, if you see this, it's if not, this negates what we are saying. This just state your username. If you don't have a username, what you do, we stay on the same page. Else, if you have a username, we go to the next page. So we have an event, which is a click event. And when we click it, provided we have given it a name, it goes to the next step. So what we're going to do now, I'm going to talk about components, life cycles, and components, life cycle, and the events. Most of the events, let me go to a LinkedIn page. If you check this page here, this is my LinkedIn page. We have, for example, if this was a React application, this will be one component. Then we might have another component inside here. When we have one component inside the other, we say it's nested. And so this might be another component, which is just for posting. And we have another component for jobs here. And this might be different components. For this, I think this is exactly the same. This component and this component is the same. It's only when you post, it renders your post. So we have different components, and we have probably this navigation bar components having all these, and we can have a global component, the one that has everything, that handles everything. So when I have this component, there is sometimes we want, let's say there is an issue with this part of the component, and we don't want to render. Okay, that one has to be rendered for this particular case. Let's say I have posted something here. Let me just write, I posted something here, and there's an issue, so I don't want to render. It's easy for us not to render. So if you are using DOM, it will be so slow for us to do this. So nowadays, mostly when you do React or you do Vue.js, we use what we call virtual DOM. This is a very interesting idea. It's not a framework. It's not something that you say. It's an idea that renders DOM. DOM is just means document object model, and this is how, if you check, it's under, if you check DOM in Wikipedia, Wikipedia. You see, DOM, it's whatever, it's HTML, and you see it looks like this. This is a structure of a DOM element. HTML components are made of DOM. We have the documents at the top. These are parent to the HTML. This is a root element in HTML. Every HTML page starts with that element. We can see we are going to render our components inside the HTML form. HTML here. These are where basic HTML, and this is the HTML. This is the root element of our application. So everything will be here inside this HTML page. So let's go back to the DOM, and we have our head. Our head, basically, like in my application here, this is the head. Whatever is above this is the head, and everything else below here is called a body. And if I have something down here, it's called a footer. So we have head, we have the body, and a footer down here. And if you check DOM, we have a DOM. This is DOM. We have title. We have body. The body. The title is inside this title, like this one. It's inside the head, and then we have body. We have everything we render. So this relationship we have, like the body is a parent to H1. Then H1 might be, it's a parent to, it's not connected, but it can be a parent to an anchor tag. This A means anchor with the href attributes, but this anchor tag has a link text. This child to that. So if you check, this is like a family tree. Family tree. Family tree, like there's a parent and there's a child. So this is the nature of DOM, document object model, that we use to render our pages, HTML pages. And now what we have here, if the DOM is actually quite slow, when the life cycle of a component is done, it takes quite long to clear it from the interface. So that's why React, it started with React, but nowadays the virtual DOM is also in Vue.js, and I think other frameworks also have a virtual DOM. So when let's say we load this, and this component has come to an end of its life, it's actually cleared from the user interface quite fast when you're using our virtual DOM. So that's virtual DOM. It's quite interesting thing to read about and to learn. So more of that, you can read it here. You can see virtual DOM in React. You can do virtual for Vue.js. There's a Medium post for that, and okay, I'm not signing in. This application, I talked about this last time, so it's a quite important thing to do. Let's go back to where we were. So we have DOM, we have events happening inside our DOM. And so we have this this is on key event. Then we have class on key events. It's events that listens to keys. Let's say, for example, I have my application here, and instead of clicking this button, I actually put on key down event. So when I do this and I hit enter, that's an on key down event. So we have events that are called key events. We have key up, we have key. I don't know. I don't remember exactly all of them, but the key events, we can check key events JavaScript and check what are they. True. Okay, I'm not seeing. Yeah, here in this we see we have here an input. This is the input here, and we have a function which is now the one we going to this my function. This is what we are going to do, and we have to, because it's a function, we have to use this. We say every for this application, when we click, we want this function to be executed on key. No, not when we click, when we do on key press. So let's go and do this. An embedded page. On this page, you press the key inside the input. Yeah, that's what it's supposed to do. Then you place the key inside the so when I use my keyboard to insert something, this should tell me that this is an alert that has this message inside it. So this is my JavaScript function. Event handlers are many JavaScript functions that take care of what we want to do. Let's, for example, if we had here on click event listener, and then we said actually this, I think it's on change, because we want to click on this. If we had a button, we have clicked on change. Let's see. When we start to change, it shows us this thing, this alert. So we have an event listener on change, and we have, it does what anything we do, anything we do, the events will be created like that. So we have our application here. We have different events we want to execute. And for example, I have my logout here. When I click this, my event listener will listen to the logout function, then go to my server, my authentication server, and log me out. And that's what it happens. It takes me back to the authentication page. So I hope I remember the username. Actually, I don't. So let me go to localhost 8080 and get the credentials. Here it is. This is my authentication server, which it has quite a number of listeners. Then this is what's supposed to be done. This is called, I'm using Keycloak. It has this endpoint, which is localhost 8080 auth. That's what, when I log in, it takes me to localhost 8080. Then it appends some information to this, and this is the page. This page is I created. It's on my authentication server, but it directs to my application when I log in. And this page, if you check, it also has, for example, when I log in here, it has a quick event. When I click this button, it actually knows I'm logging in. If I have the correct credentials, it takes me to the page where I want to go. Also, we have other events, like if I choose this internationalization, if I want to change the language, there's an event listener listening to event. Let's say I want to use Italian, so it will change the language. It will know that I want to change from English to Italian, and then change. If I want to change to Chinese, I don't know, I think that's Chinese, yes, and it will change to Chinese language. And the same, if I want to change to back to English, these are handled by event listeners. So when I do an event, there's a what we call event listeners, and then they listen, and then they execute my what I want to do. The event listeners for this is like this function. It's listening to a non-change event and then doing something like that, like what I've done just there. So uh, if you come to this, actually these are JavaScript events. Yeah, there are quite a number. These are DOM events. We have a board, we have animation, we have blur, change, click. There are quite a number. Key up, key down. This key down is what I was talking about. Key down. Yes, on key down, let's say I actually on key down is when I enter anything on my application, like I'm using my keys to enter, my keyboard to enter. So we have key down, key press. We have mouse over. For example, I showed you. Let's say we hover here, you can see the color change from a darker version of blue to from a lighter version to a darker version of blue. So this is a hover action, uh, hover event. So it listens to when we do that. So there's so many events, you can check them. They are basically written like this. For an input like this one, we have is a type text, and then it calls a function, then you write the functions. For example, in our application here, we have this where application leads, and we have chat. Let me go to chat and we see an event. And we have, and why is it not there? I'm looking for the logout component. Okay, I'm not seeing it, but when I click logout, it calls a function. It listens to the click event and then logs me out. I wanted to show it in code. I showed it in the page, so I wanted to show it on my code. So apart from that, I talked about event listeners. We have what we call a life cycle. When our component, the life cycle of a component starts when it's rendered. Let's say, for example, I can go back to LinkedIn. Go back. So we have our, like I clicked this to re-render this page. Let's say the state here, the data we have here actually changed from what it was to what it is right now. When a component is rendered, we say that's where its life starts, and when it's removed from the user interface, that's the end of its life. So during its life, we, we have what we call lifecycle methods. For example, you can check lifecycle methods. For React, we actually have component did mount. When a component is mounted to our application, let's say life cycle methods are in React. So actually it is we have lifecycle methods. For example, we have component did mount. I think I have a component did mount. When, for example, a component did mount is exactly when our application is rendered on the page. That's when the what event we are listening to gets rendered. For example, if you wanted to get data from, I have my application here, so let me go. We have component did mount. These are lifecycle method. This name is not arbitrary like the other names I have. For example, this one, set name, you can set it to what you want. But for component did mount, it's a function by React JavaScript. We can have component. You can see here here they are. Okay, we have component will and mount. For example, what we did here, we can undo it here. When the life of this component comes to an end, we do away with what we are doing. And for example, I have component did mount, and I'm saying when the component mounts, call this is what we call WebSocket. I'll be talking about WebSocket in the future. We have our WebSocket is just something. When we use HTTP, we use HTTP for web pages. HTTP is for web pages, but when we use WebSockets are mainly for chat application or information that is being sent as a stream. So we use WebSockets, and I have a WebSocket here, and I have a function connect to the server, which I'm calling it here. It's in my actions. I have actions here at the top. I have actions. Then we have index. Then I have my this a bit advanced. This is Redux, but I have my uh, connect to the server. Connect to the server function that to connect to the server and call the data for JavaScript for WebSocket. So I have that there. So I've talked about lifecycle methods. Lifecycle methods, you can check JavaScript lifecycle methods. There are quite a number of them, and there's not long ago we had okay, actually this one explains quite well. We have the mounting, the update, and the amount. This is the birth of the component, growth of the component, and the death. That's actually a very simple explanation and a good one. So we have component did update. When a component update, let's say the state, we have new data in our application, so the component will re-render, and then that's when we update our component, and we have component with an amount when it comes to an end of its life. And we had other lifecycle methods like component with update props, which has been deprecated right now. There are quite a number. For this for JavaScript application, the JavaScript framework, they keep changing stuff. So lifecycle methods keeps on changing over the time. So even for Vue, we have a Vue lifecycle. Vue lifecycle methods. Methods. let's see, an article. Yeah, when you create a new instance of view, you have an event life cycle. It starts with init. Init it means initialization. Then there are events that need to happen, and the life cycle of it starts. Then we have before create. Before create is like component. I think it's deprecated right now. Component will mount. We have component did mount. That happens when the component is mounted. But we had components will mount uh, a life cycle. So it's like this before you create our component. So we have before create, like component will mount. So we do something. We call an backend API. It gives us some data. If we also when created do something like that, this diamond is a decision, like if uh, this happens do this, if it doesn't happen do this, and then okay. So before mount, when you mounted this, basically I'm saying we have lifecycle methods for almost every JavaScript framework. And for that you can check on the JavaScript lifecycle methods. Today I wanted to talk about lifecycle methods, talk about event listeners, and probably maybe I can show you how to write one. Let's see. I had an application here. It goes by, I think it's here. No, it's not this one. I think I closed it and the application was here. I created this application today. I wanted it to. I have been creating applications, JavaScript applications live, but I can even do it right now. I just come here to my terminal. I have what is called a Create React app on my machine. Let me see. I want this. What I'll do, I'll just say npx React create app. Then I'll give it the name of the application I want to create. This let's say life, for example, life cycles. We want to create an application that tells us the life cycle. So it goes ahead and creates, it pulls some libraries from the internet and then creates an application. When it's done, it will tell us. So for now, I'm going to use this, not this one. This what I had. It's exactly the what I was given by when I created it. Created all these files for me. For now, I have my this HTML page, the basic HTML page. Then I will have my components rendered in between here. This we have root and the ID there. For root, we have our app, and our app is connected to index.js. We're saying render this what renders takes the virtual DOM we have been writing and puts it inside our DOM. Our DOM is basically our HTML page. This DOM elements, but we want to inject our virtual DOM. So this is what does React DOM does exactly that. Puts our DOM elements inside the virtual DOM elements inside our DOM elements, our DOM page. So we have, it uses JavaScript. This is a JavaScript that says document dot get ID by dot get element by ID. We have our ID here. This is our ID. So our ID is root. Then we are going to render app, which is this app component, when when it renders. Okay, so for now, let's say we come here and we create an let me create a new folder, new directory, and call it components. And then inside components, I'll have a JavaScript file, and then I'll call it events. Let me just call it our events. So I can have a class in. I can have a class our events which extends component. We are saying we want to create a component, and let me do this, and or we need to import a component, and then insert component, then we need React here. So we have this class. We are moving away from using classes in React, but I'll use React class to show. We have what we call functional components. This is a class component. So functional components has render, and it has also return. And then we put our HTML inside the return. So this is where we have h1. We have a h1 tag that says welcome, and then we do what we call export, because we will be importing it. Export default. Then we give it a name, our events, and then semicolon. So this is not really React. It's supposed to be like that. So we have our component. This is our component, and inside here we have what we call, you see, there's some stuff, we call them constructors. I'll just write them. I'll explain what they are next time. It takes properties, then it calls this super calls the component that we will be rendering inside. We'll be taking this events component and putting inside our component, our app component here. So it will take properties, then do what we call, it will have, we want to store our data, and we say our data will be, let's say, it's stored in this dot state, and our data will be, let's say, events, and then it will be an array of events. So that's our data. Let me check what's not right here. I think it requires, I'm not sure what I'm doing wrong, but looks something like that. I will change it if there is. So we have this some boilerplate stuff, which when you use a functional component, you don't need them. So I have, let's say, this h1 is followed by a button. Button, and let me create this button. Button. Okay. Let's say even this one, we can have a click event. Let's say we have a click event here that listens to a click event. Let's say a click event, we call it handle click. Our handle, let me say handle click. This name, then because it's a function, we have to put the what call the, I think on parentheses. Okay, what we do, we come here and we can write a function. We call it this name, handle click. Then it will look like this. Function handle click. Then it will have a return. And what happens when this handles click is, let me say we want to log into the console, and we say when we get handle click, when we click this h1 element, we want to play this is an on click event. So we have that. I'm not sure why this one is not working, but I can change this to ES6. Okay, yeah, we can have it this way, but I will just use const handle click. Then I'll use this called ES6 syntax. Yes, actually, it's where my function is. This is what the issue is. I can also in JavaScript it allows us to put these components outside. We can put it there, and we see there is no issue. Then we call it inside here and renders. So when we click this, it will call this event and then render to the console. So this is an example of a function which is handling, we call them event handlers. It handles an event, a non-click event. If, for example, we can have an event that, let's say, it doesn't have to be handled. These names are arbitrary. You can call it whatever you want. Let's say change event. Let me say on change. Let me just call it on change. On change. What am I writing? On change. Probably it has this. This just to show it's a function. Then we have what we call fat arrow. This is just a way of saying it's a function. So then we say we have a return, and then we have that. So on change, we probably let's take this inside our application here and put it here. Then we can have it like that. Then inside here we had state here. Then we have a method. You can have a method that says this dot set state. We now update our state with the current data we have in our input. Let's say we have an what you call an input. Okay, let me put this in a div, and then let me take it inside. Then let me add some component. Let me say input. We have our input there. So if we add this, probably it won't render for simple reason. I have an issue here. Let me check what it is. It's a linting issue. So let me check. Yes, that was the issue. The issue. So this, let's say this we say we have an on change event. Then we call our on change. Our on change we had. this dot on change, because inside our class we are referencing this class, this dot on change, we are calling this, but our on change takes an event. We can say you can call it anything, but let me just call it event. And then it chooses the value from event and says event. It can update event dot. We have what we call target dot value. When we have this on change, it will take the data and then update our state here with the events of this event array. So this is what I mean by when I say event handlers. We'll be looking at them as we go along. I've shown you quite a number inside my application. I hope I'll remember now. I used Bob. Okay, it's not working. Let me use another user. If I can come to my application, if I can find my, okay, I'm logged in. Let me see. Done, and then use that. Okay. Actually, I've forgotten the passwords, but I can check them from my application, and maybe I can change them. If I forgot password, then I can put my username. Then when I submit, it's actually should you receive an email so that's basically forgot password. Let's say, let me register a user. Let me say I don't know who wrote this. And then okay, this is actually someone's name, and let's go, and then we see her email address is that, and then we put our password so we can log in with it. And then when we register, I think this one should work. We save email already registered. We can have let's see 3. Okay. I hope it will register. Oh, okay. There's an issue there. I will check on it. So let me go back to my application and see if I can log in with those credentials. Localhost 3000. Actually, it's not working. I am not sure why. Oh, I closed my application here. Sorry for that. I'll start it next time. For now, I think I'm a bit tired. I'm doing crazy stuff here. So I can start it. For starting an application, no, that's this one. I want to start my, where is it? Here it is. Here it is. If I want to start, I'll just come here and say Yan, I'll start And for example, on Friday we did what we call deployment. If when you are using it for development, we use this developer server. But on Friday we packaged the application as a Docker. Then we had it. Okay, here it renders this application actually because I had logged in. It didn't require me to log in again. So we have our application. So we set these events and we have event handlers listening to these events and doing something about them. Next time we will talk more on JavaScript to write functions. Also, I can say we have right now we are almost JavaScript is there will be a new specification for JavaScript which is called ES 2020 coming out very soon. You can check the features. ES means ECMAScript. This is a specification for JavaScript. There are quite a number of good features that are coming up. For example, you can check this, what they mean. And yeah, I'll look at them when that time comes. And right now, I'll just say thanks for joining me. And yeah, let's see next time as we do. I know I said I'll do a fetch fetching data from an API, and I showed something to do with that using WebSocket, but I'll actually show a fetch. A fetch is actually a very simple. It's like let's say when we submit, when we want to, let's say when you click this on click, it can have this handle click, take data from a web page from a web server, and that would be like, let's say if it's a handle click, and then it takes an event and then does that. And so I can have here, first I'll be doing what we call prevent default. So to tell my application I don't want it to do things I've not like HTML5 renders some stuff automatically. It goes to another page, and that's not what we want to do. So when I do this, I'll come here and say fetch, and then when I say fetch, I'll give it a URL which is like www dot something. Let's say Facebook .com/data. Then we come here and we do what we call this. We say we get a response from that response. Then we map the response to response.json because we want it to be in form of JSON. And yeah, then when we I think that's the correct thing. Then after you get JSON, we want to take it. So we have this dot set state. Then we get the data, and then set state. We get this data, and we say response dot. I think data something. Then if it has an error, we do a dot catch. When we have an error, we do catch. This is what I'll be doing next time. I was supposed to do today, but I didn't. Time is almost running out. So I'll do this. I will be fetching data from what we call JSON placeholders. It's a website that has data. It's called JSON placeholders. We'll be taking data from their endpoints. Actually, this is how it looks. You have a fetch that takes a JSON placeholder to do ID. If you want to get one, you get a response, then you log it to the console. Let's say if you log it to the console, it will look like this: an object, a JavaScript object. Actually, JSON stands for JavaScript Object Notation. And so we have a JavaScript object with ID1, with ID1, ID, and then there's a title. And we can have all of them, all to do's, all 200 of them. You can see it's an array of JavaScript object. This braces, curly braces means the JavaScript object, and this is an array. So we have 100 of them. We'll be pulling this data and rendering onto a page. That we do next time using React, and also I think I'll do it using Vue.js. Yeah, and yeah, that's what I wanted to talk about today. Let's meet next week on Monday as we discuss more about front end. We can do forms, we can do a whole lot of things. We can do, like today I showed, for example, here using React, I showed conditional rendering when I said if it has a username, render. If it doesn't have a username, don't render. We can have list, this stuff. We can do all of this stuff. And if you have something you would like to know, just text me or write me a message, then I'll look at it. Yeah, thanks for your time, and let's meet next week. Also, you can meet me on Wednesday. I'll be doing backend Wednesday, looking at more on building backend. We did a Spring application last week. Yeah, last week on Wednesday, and it's an API. Also, as much as we can use JSON placeholders API, we can also create our own APIs and use them for front end. So I'll be using Spring to do what we call CRUD application: create, update, create, read, update, and delete. So that's what I'll be doing on Wednesday. On Friday, we'll be continuing with Docker and Kubernetes. We are almost doing the last part of it. We are like we'll be doing, on Friday, we'll be doing more on secrets, more on config maps. We'll be doing config maps, secrets, I think ingress, and how to deploy an application on the cloud. And yeah, that's what we'll be doing for now. Have a good night. Let's see each other on Wednesday, on Friday, and on Monday. Thank you.